Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. Now, this is a video version of a written tutorial I did a long time ago for the group, and it is about trying to save an underexposed image. And by that I mean it's got this really dark area down here where there is no detail. So it is underexposed here and a tad underexposed up here at the top as well. But it's mainly trying to recover the details from down here. Now a more traditional route would be to sort of add a levels layer. So I'll just bring this back, click on the tool, and you could play around with the level slider stops to try and bring back some of the details from down here. But in doing so, you are losing some of the sky area. I mean, I could have sort of selected the sky area and added layer masks and what have you, but it can be okay, or it can be a bit hit and miss. Again, because I've sort of blown out a lot of the contrast in the image, you might have then had to have added the brightness and contrast adjustment layer to try and bring back some of the contrast in the image, but in doing so you're then bringing back this underexposed area. So I'm trying to look at a different way of getting the result I'm after. So what I will do is I will delete these two layers, as they were just there for demonstration purposes, and I'm now back with the original image. First thing I want to do is to duplicate this layer. And to do that, if you're on the background layer, you just right click and select duplicate. You can also do it from the layers menu, and duplicate is there as well. So you have two ways of duplicating a layer. Right, let me just highlight that top layer again, so I'm working on the duplicated layer. Now I'm going to add the hue saturation, but I'm not going to add it as a layer. I want to add it as an individual tool. So you just come up here to Image, Adjust, Hue Saturation. You can also open this with Control, Shift and H. And what I'm going to do now is just take all the colour out of this image by just quickly sliding this saturation slider down to 0 and then click OK. Now I want to add a levels adjustment, but again not as a layer but as an individual tool. So it's Image, Adjust, Levels, or you can do Control, Shift and E. Now this time I'm going to bring the levels highlight stop, which is the white one here on the right, but I'm going to bring it a really long way over to the left, probably down to 50 or 60 or so, because what I'm looking at is the amount of detail I'm bringing back here in the underexposed area. I'm not worrying about the sky that's now gone pure white. I'll click OK there. I'm on 55, so it depends on your image how far you want to go. So I will click OK there, and then I'm going to go up to the Effects menu, go to Blur and Gaussian Blur. Now this is still set on 26, which is where I had it on when I did my test run of this, but you can, you want it quite high. I'll try it on 20 this time, just to see if it's any that much different. Click OK. Right, now the next thing we want to do is come up to Image, Adjust, and come down to, now in my original written tutorial which I did for PhotoPlus X6, it didn't have an invert command. This was called negative image, I think it was called. So if you've got an older version you may need to look for negative image, but in PhotoPlus X8 it's now called invert. So you click on either negative image or invert and it will change that to an inversion of the original. So what was now black is now white, and what was white is now black. So what you want to do now is come up to the select menu and click select all, and then go over to the edit menu and select copy, and that image is now put into memory. So we can turn that layer off now, or you can delete it, it's up to you. But I'm going to leave the selection area open. I'm going to come down to the background layer and I'm going to duplicate that again and just click OK on the duplicate and the properties box, and then I'm going to change the blending mode of this layer to screen. And what screen does, it will always lighten an image because it hides any black areas, any black pixels. So that it's already made this bit lighter down the bottom here. And what I'm going to do now is add a layer mask. And now I want to view this layer mask. You can do this in two ways. You can hold down the Alt key and click on the mask, or you can right click the mask and come down to view mask. And then I'm going to paste what is in memory into the mask. So you come down to edit, paste, and into selection, and then come down here to the layer display area and click on the image icon rather than the layer mask icon, and it will bring back that image. If you come down to the background layer, actually you can now press Ctrl and D to remove the selection area. And if I just turn off and on this layer with the layer mask on now, as you can see I have recovered some of the details from this dark area down here. It's not a vast amount, but I have done it without too much expense of the sky area. If anything, I do have a slight sort of halo effect around the bars here, but I don't think it's too major. You could duplicate this layer, but it will make this halo effect. I mean, you obviously brought back more of the detail in the shadows, but the halo effect is quite more pronounced. So I will hide that one and come back down to this layer. Now you can, at this point, bring up the levels, and whereas before I had to bring it quite a long way to bring out some of these shadows, I can just bring it a little bit, bring the white up to the edge of the histogram, and it has become a much better image. If I just hold down the Alt key and click on the bottom hide and show button, that is where I started and that is where I am now. So I personally think it's better to make this layer with the layer mask and then use the levels, rather than maybe making this layer and then duplicating it to lighten it up, because you are also duplicating the effects that you have made elsewhere in the picture, not just by highlighting the shadows. And I hope that all makes sense and is of some use to you. Thank you and goodbye.